Guys, please check your audio and video settings, please. Guys, everyone, please check your audio and video settings, please. Everyone, please check your audio and video settings, please. Super. Today we are going to discuss the overview architecture diagram of microservices. Overview of microservice architecture. First of all, tell me, microservice is all about what, guys? Microservice is all about what, guys? I want reply. Yes, boss. Microservice is all about, tell me. It's a combination of what, guys? Come on, everyone. Microservices application is all about working with RESTful web services. Developing the services as RESTful applications plus tell me, tools, design patterns. Okay, guys, design patterns and etc. Be this tested. Microservices application in Spring Boot. Spring Boot is equal to developing services as Spring REST applications or Spring Boot REST application. Spring Boot REST application. Next. Plus Spring Cloud service. Spring Cloud module services or tools, plus design patterns, plus third-party tools. Are you understanding my statement? Super, boss. Now let's try to understand what is what. Let us try to understand. Look at the overview diagram. This is the overview diagram, boss. This is the overview diagram. Yeah. We have to understand one by one, boss, each and every one. Please remember, today we are going to understand what is what. If you have a question, how, I'm not going to answer today. Only what is what we are going to understand. Each topic we are going to take separately and we are going to implement. Once everything is ready, we are going to develop mini projects, right? Super. Okay, now listen carefully, boss. MS1, MS2, MS3, MS4, MS5. So multiple services are developed as what? Multiple microservices are developed as what? Multiple RESTful applications are not. Multiple RESTful applications are not. Everyone getting my point, guys? Everything is one RESTful application. Everything is one RESTful application. But listen carefully. Listen carefully. one microservice will be taken for load balancing purpose. For load balancing purpose. Are you listening my statement, guys? So this microservice receives all the requests, will decide we should go to which instance of which microservice, which instance of which microservice. Everyone. So this load balancing will be implemented either by using a ribbon or fin. Ribbon or fin. Ribbon or fin. Two mechanisms are there. Fin is bit popular, boss. Fin is bit popular. If someone asks you, what is the load balancer you have used in your microservice project? 99 times we'll be using fin. Fin client. Fin. Everyone understanding my statement, guys? Come on. Super. Okay, now listen. Until I expose any service, you don't read it. You don't read it. Okay, na? Super. Now listen, guys. If one microservice wants to use another microservice, wants to talk with another microservice, first of all these microservices should be registered and exposed in a common place now, boss. All these microservices should be exposed and registered in a common place. And that common place is nothing but Netflix Eureka server. Netflix Eureka server, which is also called Register and Discovery server, boss. R&D server. So all these microservices will be registered in the Eureka server for discovery. Eureka server for discovery. Convinced, my dear? So that each microservice can locate other microservice and can initiate the communication. Array, these are the various services offered by Naresh IT. All these services related details will be kept in Naresh IT inquiry cell or not. Otherwise, if any student comes to ask for certain service, how opposite person knows it was? So they need to be exposed or not. Within Naresh IT, if one service wants to use another service, so they need to be discovered by going to common registry place or not. That is nothing but inquiry cell or not, boss. That is nothing but inquiry cell, right? Now listen. All these microservices wants to talk with the same database software. Listen carefully. Then all these microservices should use same JDBC properties. Instead of writing JDBC properties in every microservice application.properties file, it's better to place in one common place now, boss. It's better to place such JDBC properties in common place or not. That common place is called config server. And GitHub can be used as a config server. So far you have seen GitHub as a code repository. Server code repository, remote code repository. But one more angle is there from GitHub. It's not only GitHub, GitLab, anything you can take. Yeah, there common properties required for the multiple microservices of a project or application can be placed. Everyone understanding my statement, guys? GitHub, GitLab, common properties will be placed. I repeat, let us assume all these microservices are talking with the same Oracle database software. They may use different logical database or same logical database, right? So then, or some other common thing they are doing. So I don't want to hard code the related properties in each microservice because they are common, na? I want to write one time, that too globally I want to write, so that they can be used by all the microservices. And the common place where we can write common properties for all microservices is nothing but, nothing but, what is that, guys? Config server. And GitHub is one example for config server. GitHub is an example for config server. Clear, my dear? Got it? Super boss. Super boss. Now listen carefully. When all these microservices are there in communication, yes, if any exception comes in one microservice, that should be informed to the client in a proper non-technical message. That should be informed to client in proper non-technical message. Yes, sir, no, na. For that purpose, we will try to take, what is that? Heat stick circuit breaker concept was. Circuit breaker concept, and that is supplied by Netflix heat stick was. Netflix heat stick. Netflix heat stick. Once again, I repeat, when multiple microservices are there in communication, the exception raised in one microservice should be propagated to end user in proper non-technical terms. Understanding my statement? Proper non-technical terms. For that purpose, we have a tool called circuit breaker concept tool, and Netflix is providing that particular tool. I said, no, it's a lot of Spring Cloud services are tools, third-party services are tools. Sometimes we use Spring Cloud managed services or tools. Sometimes we use third-party services managed tools. I hope you got it. Once again, what is the mechanism we prefer using for load balancing, guys? Either ribbon or fin, right? Fin is popular one. Okay, boss. All these microservices related common properties will be placed where, guys? Please respond. All these microservice related common properties will be placed where, guys? GitHub or config server. Config server. What is the example for config server? GitHub or GitLab. Okay. All these microservices will be resisted where? Resisted where? To make them discoverable for other microservice. To make them discoverable for other microservice. To make them discoverable for other microservice. Netflix Eureka server, right, boss? Netflix Eureka server. Nothing but R&D server, boss. In microservices are there in communication. When microservices are there in communication, the exception raised in one microservice, the exception raised in one microservice should be exposed to another microservice. Understanding my statement? Should be exposed to other micros, should be exposed to client, should be exposed to a dashboard so that technical people can read the messages in dashboard, can handle them. Yes or no, no? For that purpose, what is the tool we need? Circuit breaker. And what is the example for circuit breaker in the market? Netflix heat stick is the circuit breaker. Okay, now listen carefully. Now listen, guys. In all these microservices, I want to do, we have a lot of options, boss. Nowadays, Resilience 4G also has come. One more option, Resilience 4G. Okay, Netflix, slowly Netflix products are going, losing their market, Babu. In that place, alternates are coming. One by one, not everything at a time, one by one. Resilience 4J is one more option we are having. Yes, guys. Now listen. Array, multiple microservices are there in communication. Yes or no, na? Okay. We need to take care of logging across the multiple microservices. logging across the multiple microservices to understand the flow of execution. We need to trace activities happening across the multiple microservices. So we need a distributed logging and tracing mechanism or not. In one microservice means simple logging is okay. But I have to enable logging across the multiple microservices, because sometime one microservice may take the support of another microservice in order to give the final result. Right, boss? In order to give the final result. Are you understanding my statement? Okay, boss. Then we need to think about working with what, guys? Distributed logging and tracking. Distributed logging and tracking, boss. Okay. And we have examples called Sleuth Jipkin, ELK stack. We can use ELK stack also. We can use ELK stack. Either Sleuth Jipkin or ELK stack to make this communication happen. To make this communication happen. Understanding my point. ELK means Elastica. What is the, can you help me? What is the full form of ELK? Yes, boss. Super. ELK stack, Sleuth Jipkin. This is one option. Second one is another option, boss. Either ELK stack or Sleuth Jipkin we can use. Are you understanding my statement, boss? Okay. Yeah, Elasticsearch. Okay, Elasticsearch Kibana. Elasticsearch, Logstash, and Kibana. All the things together we call ELK, right? Combination of multiple tools, boss. ELK stack. Stack means combination of multiple tools. Combination of multiple tools. E for Elasticsearch. L for Logstash. This is for logging purpose. Next, K for Kiba. Yeah, how to use them, don't worry. We are going to implement one. Sorry, this is K for Kiba. Yes, boss. Next one, boss. Now listen. Next one. All these microservices generally prefer Spring Data JPA. Spring Data JPA to interact with the SQL database softwares. SQL database software. Super, boss. Now listen. And same, all these microservices, Spring Boot REST application uses Spring Data NoSQL. Spring Data NoSQL. That means Spring Data MongoDB, Spring Data Cassandra, etc., to interact with what? NoSQL database softwares. Yes, no, boss? Super. When I say Oracle or MySQL or ... Super. Here, what is this? MongoDB or Cassandra or ... Everyone getting my point there or not? These microservice application, okay, don't think that cannot enjoy other facilities. They can enjoy even other facilities, okay, as part of integration. They can use message queues for messages based communication, Babu. Kafka, JMS, Camel, RabbitMQ, They can enjoy Spring Mail services. They can enjoy Spring Batch services. They can enjoy caching services given by Redis people, All these are integrations. Array, why all this thing? We can make our servlet talking to database using JDBC. We can make our servlet sending mail, receiving mail through by using Mail API. We can enable security on servlet by using JAS. Come on, guys. Similarly, in Spring REST applications, we can use MQs, message queues, for messages-based communication. In Spring REST application, we can use Spring Mail for mailing operation, batch for batch processing activities. Okay, caching activities, Redis we can use. For caching activities, we can use the Redis. Clear, my dear. Got the clarity, boss. Come on. Got the clarity, boss. Come on. Understanding. These are the possible integrations. In Servlet also we do go for integrations. Now Spring MVC also we go for integration. Now I've just listed possible integrations, boss. If needed. Suppose my Spring REST application is GPay application. Once a transaction is done, you want to trigger the email message. We want to trigger the SMS message. For that one, mail is important or not? Mail is important or not? Yeah, for that kind of activities. Hey, this is quite normal one. These are nowhere related to Spring. What is that? Microservice tools, boss. Third-party tool. These are pure integrations. To talk to different destination, to perform different activities, different APIs are given. Some of them are Spring-based, some of them are non-Spring based, whatever it is. Now listen carefully. When you have this much beautiful application with you, okay, when you have these many beautiful application with you, that too by adding Spring Boot automatically added some non-functional features, na boss. Spring Boot automatically adds some non-functional features, na boss. Health of the application comes automatically. Come on, my dear. Thread pool information, process pool information, memory information. These features will come automatically in the Spring Pool. Are you understanding my statement, guys? These features will come automatically, na boss. Come on, I want reply. These features will be added automatically or not? Yes, sir, no, na. Yes, will be added automatically, right, boss? Okay, for that one in Spring Boot, what facility is there? Actuators are there. What facilities are there? Actuators are there. Right now, boss? Super. Actuators does not provide great UI. Actuator does not provide great UI. Great user interface. Understanding my statement, boss? I want to provide one UI enjoying all the actuators. For that purpose, we are having Spring Boot Admin UI. Spring Boot Admin UI dashboard, which is linked with Actuator, provides the great presentation to enjoy the non-functional features. Provides the great presentation to enjoy the non-functional features. Are you understanding my statement, guys? Convinced, my dear. Okay, boss. Now listen. Here I will add one extra thing. Sometimes we need to enable transaction management. That too when task is happening in multiple microservices, we need a distributed transaction management. Say something, my dear. If all the operations of transaction are happening on single resource, single database software, then it is local transaction management. If different activities of transaction are taking place on different resources, that means different database software, then we need distributed transaction management, which is also called global transaction management. I'll tell one simple example, boss. Transfer money operation between two accounts of same bank. Transfer money operation between two accounts of same bank needs local transaction management or not? Say something, my dear. Why? Because same bank means single database. Withdraw deposit, both operation takes place on the same bank or not? Withdraw deposit, both operation takes place on the same bank or not? Everyone understanding my statement? Super, boss. Tell me here, what is there? Suppose a transfer money operation between two banks of between two accounts of two different banks. Okay, each bank uses their own database, right? So now how many databases are involved here? More than one database is involved. So it definitely needs distributed transaction management support or not? Definitely it needs the support of distributed transaction management. Distributed or global? Distributed or global? Tell me. Transaction management. Yeah, in the market we have Atomocus is there. Atomocus. It is one API, boss. Narayana, I think given by Telugu person. I mean to say given by Indian. Narayana. So these two are what, boss? API supporting distributed transaction management. API supporting distributed transaction management. Clear, my dear? For example, listen guys. For sale, separate microservice is there. For inventory, separate microservice is there. For payment, separate microservice is there. Okay, I can say, what is the transaction is finished smoothly when things happened in sale, inventory, and payment module perfectly and neatly. Understanding? So we need to enable do everything or nothing principle on the operations of these three modules or not? On the operations of these three modules or not? On the operations of these three modules. But every module is one microservice. So we need to enable transaction management on multiple microservices together. Do everything or nothing principle should apply on the multiple activities happened on multiple microservices. These three microservices may use same database software, may use three different database software. But still we need to enable do everything or nothing principle with respect to multiple microservices and multiple database software. What do you say, guys? Convinced or not? It definitely needs distributed or global transaction management. We have Atomocus Narayana as the two APIs performing distributed transaction management. Super. Okay, now listen carefully. Now listen carefully. How many microservices are there? 5 are there, right? Every microservice is having its own URL. And each microservice is one REST controller, right? URL. So if any client wants to use any microservice, they need to remember separate URL. But is it good for client to remember multiple URLs to interact with multiple microservices? No, it's bad, right? It's really bad. If I can provide common entry point for all these microservices, that would be really nice or not? Common entry point, common URL. Common entry point, common URL. Are you understanding my statement? For all these microservices, common entry point, common gateway with a common URL. That will be really nice or not, boss? That is not, for that one we need a tool or service called API gateway. API gateway. It's something like, launch google.com, avail all the Google product services from there. Using google.com, we can enter into any service of Google, boss, any product of Google. Yes or no? Maybe you will try to use Gmail independently, but remaining everything we try to launch from Google only. You take Google Translator, you take Google Drive, you take X, you take Y, you take Z. Most of the things we can access through Google now, boss. Google Map. Yes or no? I'll give one more example, boss. One more example I will give. Central Shopping Mall is there. Central Shopping Mall. Hyderabad Central Shopping Mall is there. There are nearly 100 stores of 100 brands. 100 stores are 100 brands. Will they promote using 100 names or will they promote using only one name called Hyderabad Central? Will they promote only one name called Hyderabad Central? Only one name. So now Hyderabad Central is the common entry name, common gateway for all the brand stores that are there inside the mall or not? Yes or no? Mall related information, shopping experience, everything is promoted on the name of Hyderabad Central. Once you come to Hyderabad Central, from there you will be diversified to go to different places. Yes or no? Same thing, Flipkart.com. Common URL, common entry point should be there to use a sales module, to use inventory module, to use, tell me next one. Are you understanding my statement, boss? Common entry point is required or not required? Definitely required, boss. While dealing with this common, what are the possible common entry points to provide common URL to use all the microservices? Netflix Joule is one thing. Kong is one thing. Cloud Gateway. Cloud Gateway. And Netflix Joule is losing its popularity slowly, boss. Okay, nowadays everyone is using Cloud Gateway. Spring Cloud Gateway. It is picking up slowly, boss. It is picking up slowly. Yeah, listen. Along with this gateway, we can add some other facilities. What kind of facilities? SSO, single sign-on. Single sign-on. Understanding my statement? JWT with OAuth 2.x or Okta. We can use a single sign-on. Understanding my statement? We have a lot of options. API GA is also one gateway. Okay. JSON Web Tokens, OAuth 2.x, Open Authentication 2.x, Okta. So these are the various security related things. These are various security related things. Understanding my point? Now let me, next one. Next one. Here we'll be having filters also, boss. You will be having filters to keep track of all the activities that are happening. Like servlet filters are there, na? Servlet filters are there to apply common and global pre-request processing, post-response generation logic. So when gateway traps a request, okay, if you want to apply common pre-request processing logic, common post-response generation logic, we can keep in the filters. We can keep in the filters. Routing, I will talk. Routing, I will talk. Don't worry about it. Now listen, guys. These are the different clients, boss, to use microservices. To use microservices, different types of client. You take Flipkart.com is developed by using what? Microservice environment. Having each service as a separate microservice. Okay. To access those services, different types of front ends are possible now, boss. Different types of front end applications are possible or not. Okay. We can visit Flipkart.com as a website. From as a web application, we can access services, right? From mobile application, we can access services. From different UI clients, we can access those services, right now, boss? Angular, React JS running in Node.js environment, JavaScript based website, Spring based website, mobile application, and these are third party applications, boss. Third party application, .NET application, PHP application, Salesforce application, and a lot of third party applications also can be there. So overall, you have a look, guys. This is the look. All these are the clients trying to use services of these microservices application by entering into microservices through common gateway. This gateway is linked with security. This gateway is linked with filters. This gateway deals with what? Will work with what? Global data format. What is that? Over on HTTP, JSON data will travel along with the request, along with the response. These microservices will interact with SQL database softwares using Spring Data JPA. Will interact with NoSQL database software using Spring Data NoSQL module, MongoDB, Cassandra module. If needed, these microservices can have integrations with what? Other modules of Spring, like Kafka, JMS, Camel, Mail, Batch, caching, and number of things. Super, boss. The logging and tracing across the multiple microservices will be taken care by using distributed logging and tracking mechanism. For them, we have tools called Sleuth, Jipkin, ELK stack tools are there. Superna, boss. Transaction management across the multiple microservices will be handled by using what? Distributed transaction management. For that one, we have Atmarcus, Narayana APIs are there. Super, guys. Okay, since all these microservices are developed by using Spring Boot, the Spring Boot actuator facilities can be enjoyed, boss, which provides non-functional features about each microservices, right? But if you want to get them in a presentable UI format, then we have to use Spring Boot Admin UI module. Spring Boot Admin UI tool or module, boss. So you will get somewhat better presentation while enjoying those non-functional features, boss. Okay, guys. When you want to keep all these microservices for communication, first of all, they need to be registered in a common place called registry server. They need to be registered in a common place called registry server, right, boss? For that one, we have to use Netflix Eureka server, boss. For this, we need to use Netflix Eureka server. Understanding my statement, boss? Super, boss. This is called R&D server, not research and development. Register and discovery server, boss. Super. Okay. Now listen. Exception raised in one microservice should, especially when microservices are in communication, should be explained to programmer, should be should be presented to programmers in a proper manner. So for that purpose, we need a circuit breaker tool. Netflix history can be taken as a circuit breaker tool. Common properties required for all the microservices can be placed in a config server, common place called config server. GitHub, GitLab can be taken as a common. Everyone got it? Super. Right. As of now, I didn't find any alternate for Eureka R&D server, boss. As of now, Netflix Eureka server is doing well. Next one. Next one. Performing load balance, picking up right instance of right microservice. Okay, balancing the load will be taken care by what? Special tools called ribbon or fin. Boss, fin is very popular. Load balancing will be taken care by, listen guys, load balancer is also one microservice. This is a dummy empty microservice without having any business logic. Its work is purely taking care of load balance. Its work is purely taking care of load balancing. Yes or no, na boss? So that means what happened? In R&D server, we just keep the details. FEI and GN, okay. Fin. Yeah, people are asking me what is the difference between R&D server and API gateway. R&D server is like front office, Rababu. R&D server is like front office, where all the services will be registered. API gateway is like, though every microservice is having its own URL, we try to access all the microservices using common URL. To provide that common URL, we need API gateway. We need API gateway. Suppose if I make API gateway as an entry point, by using this URL, we can communicate with any microservice from our client application or not. Is there any need of remembering these many URLs? No. If we can remember API gateway URL, using that we can communicate with each microservice or not. Okay, boss. So now let's study one by one, guys. For multiple, Shake Ras, ELK stack is for distributed logging. That means it provides environment to track the flow of execution across the multiple microservices, na boss. Across the multiple microservices, right, boss? Okay. Yeah, Shivkumar is confirming my statements. Shivkumar is confirming my statement, guys. Sir, we have an Angular front end with backend Spring Boot application. For all APIs, we have a base URL, base or common URL that ends with /gateway. For all these people don't bother about individual URLs, but people bothers about this one. Why, every microservice runs on its own server, having its own host name, having its own port number, having its own global path and method path. If I ask a client to use those many URLs, he'll feel very bad, na boss. Yes or no, na? Yeah, API gateway is like a counselor in the counselor or receptionist in the office, boss. Welcomes everyone and diverts the request to different departments. Yes or no, na? And Eureka server is a register where department's information is available. Department information is available. Yes or no, na? API gateway is like front office or security guard, security team who traps your entry, okay, and diverts different people to different places, right, boss? After proper verification and all this stuff. Yeah. Now let us see points one by one. Microservice architecture is designing or specification which provides set of rules and guidelines to develop project as set of loosely coupled or decoupled services. And this can be implemented by using Spring Boot, Spring Cloud, Netflix, and lots of other tools. Spring Boot, Spring Cloud, Netflix, lots of other tools. And what is basic microservice architecture? It's like basic set of rules are there. Implementation is possible using this. Every module in the project will be developed. Every module in the project will be developed as separate microservice in the form of Spring REST controller with the support of Spring Boot environment. Uh, sales, sales service, separate REST controller. Finance service, separate REST controller. Payment service, separate REST controller. Got it, boss? Super. Once the microservice architecture project is ready, it will be deployed in cloud environment like AWS, Azure, Google Cloud, and etc. With the support of DevOps tools like Jenkins with CI/CD, Docker, Ansible, and Kubernetes. Ansible and Kubernetes. Every tool is having its own importance. You don't worry about it. So we take the support of these tools in the deployment of microservice architecture project. Why? Because nowadays everyone is preferring cloud environment. Microservice architecture is latest from Babu. Cloud is also latest. So everyone is preferring cloud environment. Okay. Yesterday, someone asked me one question. Sir, is there any disadvantage with cloud was? Okay, I'll ask one simple question. Every 2 years, you are changing the job and changing the city. What is better? Rental house is better, permanent house is better. Rental house is better, permanent house is better. Rental house is better, permanent house is better. Rental house is better because every 2 years you are changing the city and job, right? Suppose. You are after few years, you decided to settle down in one city by marrying a girl, and you want to stay in the city for next 20 years. You want to stay in that city for next 20 years. Now tell me, boss, better to go for permanent house now, boss, own house, right? Because you can save rental income. You can save rental expenditure. Same rental amount you can pay as EMI, you will get one property at the end. You'll be having one property at the end, right, boss? You'll be having one property at the end, boss. Yes or no? You'll be having one property at the end. Now listen, your software company is dealing with product, their own product, which is clicked in the market also. So continuously they need to run it for 20 years, 30 years, how many days it survives. At that time, using the cloud services is better or their own infrastructure is better. Cloud infrastructure is better, own infra is better. That time better to use their own infra. From security point of view also better to use their own infra. Everyone understanding? So what is the final conclusion? Initially start with cloud, and if your project is a product and going to run for 20-25 years, better to have your own infrastructure. Better to have your own infrastructure. Got it, guys. Ravindra, sir, these many tools, are we going to learn all these tools? Array, we already learned microservices in the form of RESTful web services. Right? Learning these tools only microservice architecture. We are going to spend our next few days only learning those tools because we already developed microservices as a REST controllers, right now, boss? Please. Okay, boss. Next. Yeah, no, are you expecting these tools? No, no, one. In this is purely DevOps course, boss. Oh, come on. Don't expect I should learn everything here. Kubernetes, Ansible, Docker. I make you basic awareness on those tools, boss. You want depth knowledge about these tools, DevOps course is there. Please. You are talking about these tools? Sorry. we assembled for microservices, not for DevOps course. Right. Super. Tell me, guys, after developing each microservice as a separate Spring REST application or project, it must be published in a common place called R&D server, register and discovery server, like Netflix Eureka server. Netflix Eureka server. Everyone understanding my statement, guys? R&D server called R&D server, Netflix Eureka server. Super, boss. Next one. One microservice can find and communicate with other microservice only when it is published in R&D server. I said, no, this communication is possible only when microservices are registered in what? R&D server. Register and discovery. They are registered for discovery purpose, boss. The common properties with the same values of multiple microservices can be placed outside the microservices in a place called config server. In a place called config server. Understanding my statement, guys? Okay, guys. In a place called config server. What is there? GitHub. Array, just now we learned all these things, Babu. All these things. I'm just giving the confirmation statement. If any exception rises in the execution of one microservice, it has to be informed to admin UIR dashboard with the support of circuit breaker like Netflix E-Streak. Are you understanding my statement, guys? Rajendra, do you have any problem of reading English? Do you have problem of reading English? If there, let me know. I said I will be placing common properties. I said I will be placing microservices. Please, guys. In config server, we will be placing common properties. I will be placing microservices. Tell me. Guys, if you listen like this, I really discourages me, boss. It really discourages me. Then where is the question of microservices, my dear? Please, if you don't listen also, no problem. You can learn freshly and correctly later. But if you listen and understood wrongly, it is very dangerous. And moreover, you are not using basic common sense. I already said microservices should be registered in what? R&D server. When they are already registered in R&D server, why do you do same work in GitLab? Definitely GitLab for a different purpose. Does it make sense or not, boss? Already I said I should be registered in what? R&D server, right? Why do you do the same thing in GitLab or GitHub? Config server is there to maintain common properties with the common values. Common properties with the common values. I have given example also. All microservices wants to talk with the same database software. So all of them looks for what? Same JDBC properties with the same values, right? Such properties we don't place Inside every microservice, in every application dot properties, we prefer placing them in what? Common place called config server. Common place called config server. Clear, boss? Super, super. No problem. No problem. If any microservice is having more demand, then we allow to create multiple instances dynamically. In that situation, to pick up the right instance with less load factor from other microservices, we take the support of load balancer clients. What clients, guys? Load balancer client like Ribbon, Fin, HTTP load balancer, but Fin is popular one. Fin is popular one. Everyone understanding my statement, guys? We create multiple instances when demand is there. When request comes from any client through API gateway, that request should go to which instance of microservice? Is it decided by this load balancer or not? Is it decided by this load balancer or not? Come on, my dear. Super boss. Next one. Since we are developing every microservice as Spring REST application in Spring Boot environment, so we can make these microservice applications interacting with lots of other facilities like what? MQs, mega queues, mail, caching, batch processing, and etc. I am talking about integrations, boss. Integrations. Yes, sir, no, no. Super. Microservice can interact with SQL database software using Spring Data JPA. Microservice can interact with NoSQL database software using what? Spring Data NoSQL modules like Spring Data MongoDB, Spring Data Cassandra, and etc. Super, boss. To monitor and manage all the microservices of the project. Okay. All the microservices of the project. Understanding my statement? Shan Sharma is asking question. Sir, there is no arrow between API gateway and load balancer. Array, that is the implicit Babu. Okay, did I keep any arrow between microservice and R&D server? Did I put any arrows between microservice and R&D server? No, na. Understanding? Got the point? So I need not to put the arrow, boss. From API gateway only, load balancer takes the request, picks up the right instance. It picks up the right instance, right? Understanding? So sometimes we can integrate load balancer in the API gateway itself. Load balancer in the API gateway itself. Got it? Super. Don't go by arrows every time. Go by the meanings. To monitor and manage all the microservices of the project, we try to use Spring Boot admin UIR dashboard. Spring Boot admin UIR dashboard. That is created using support of Spring Boot actuators, which are also useful providing non-functional features like health metrics of the project. Health metrics of the project, thread pools info, next, what are the other information we can get? Memory info, and etc. Thread pool info, thread dump info, thread dump also you will get, guys. Super. Health metrics, thread pool, all this stuff, boss. Okay. Actually, actuators will give that facility, but to present them in a beautiful manner, we have Spring Boot Admin UI boss. Next, since a project contains multiple microservices interacting with each other, so we need to perform logging and tracing activity across the multiple microservices as needed with the support of distributed logging and tracking tools like Sleuth and Zipkin. Sleuth and Zipkin or ELK stack. Or ELK. Or ELK stack. Or ELK stack was. Interesting or not? Was. Super. Next, guys. The microservice of the project can have different types of clients. Can have different types of client front end. Uh, uh, Clients like mobile application, web MVC application, third party application, UI technology applications, and etc. UI technology applications and etc. Super boss. Next, to use all these microservices and tools from different types of clients and front-end application, we need a common entry point and exit point. We need one common entry point and exit point concept. I hope you are understanding. Nothing but API gateway like Netflix, Joule, Kong, etc. Providing facilities like to apply filters, routers, security, and etc. Yeah, this API gateway itself will provide what? Other facilities like what? Filters, routers, security, and etc. Routers I cannot give you hint boss. I will explain more later. It's some API related information. Filters, routers, security, and etc. boss. API gateway only will come with these facilities. Enjoyed my statement, guys? Super. Okay. Ravi? Now, if you have one microservice, API gateway is not required. You have 20 microservices talking with each other, right? That time, is it better to remember 20 URLs or better to remember single URL? Single URL. And that single URL comes because of what? Single base URL comes because of what? API gateway. I hope you are understanding. And API gateway itself provides security, Rambo. And simple reason, Ram. So one more reason, one more simple thing I will say. Better to implement security on each microservice separately, yeah? Or better to implement on API gateway and accordingly give permission to get into each microservice. Single sign-on feature, boss. Sign into one place and get access to other place. Sign into API gateway, get access to all the microservices. Single sign-on. I'll tell one example. You want to use 20 plus Google products that are there. Do you need to sign into every product separately? Do you need to log into every product separately? No, not at all. We just need to log into Gmail. With that login, we can enjoy your access to YouTube, Google Drive, Google Translator, X, Y, Z. Don't you think it's like single sign-on, boss? Don't you think it's like single sign-on? API gateway provides multiple facilities, my dear. Yeah, multiple facilities. Base URL it provides, load balancer integration it will have, single sign-on facility can be applied. Are you getting my point there, guys? Okay. Super, guys. Tell me the process of executing executing related logics by applying do everything or nothing principle is called transaction management. Is called transaction management. Super boss. Two types of transactions. TX is the official word to represent transaction. Local transaction management. All the activities of transaction management takes place on the single resource. Distributed transaction management. Single resource. Single resource means single database software. Example, transfer money operation between the two accounts of same database. The activities of transaction management takes place on different resources, but DB softwares. On different resources on DB softwares. On multiple resources. Multiple resources. Transfer money. Transfer money operation between two accounts of two different banks. Two accounts of same bank. Two accounts of same bank. Got it, boss? Convinced, my dear? If microservices of communication, if the microservices of communication are completing the job or task, it is recommended to enable distributed transaction management. I think you got nice idea about overall architecture of microservices, guys. This is the overview. If someone asks you what you know in microservice, you draw this diagram and explain about each one. I think everyone benefited, boss. I think you enjoyed. You might have seen this diagram, boss, but the presentation is important. You might have seen this diagram here and there, but the way I presented is very, very important. Super. If not seen, fine and good. I hope you thoroughly enjoyed the process. You got crystal clear clarity. What we are going to learn in microservices, why we are learning. Overall idea has come now, boss. Saurav Kumar is now saying, Earlier, I heard these tools in my company. Today, I got the clarity. Okay. Search engine is different now, boss. How can I talk about search engine and microservices? Search engine needs separate API, boss. I think some algorithms and APIs are there. Some algorithms and APIs are there. I think in Google, some API is there. What is the API? Page ranking algorithm they use. They use page ranking algorithm. Some API is there. Mail me, I will tell that. Yeah, while teaching this tool, some of the microservice patterns I'm going to cover. API gateway is one pattern actually. Circuit breaker is one pattern. So in most of the places, because of patterns only, we are learning these tools. Right. Sir, different client wants to different kinds of security. Can we provide using API gateway based on the client? No. See, security is standard now, boss. I don't know what you mean, how you are expecting. What implementation you provide in API gateway, same thing will reflect for the client, right? Yeah, some configuration of Eureka server in Spring Boot API project. Today I got the clarity. I'm working on the technology, but today I got to know what exactly it is. All these clear, but one doubt, communication happens between DS. DS means what? Discovery server and Fin client. No, yaar. This Fin client also takes the support of what? Eureka server while finding the other microservice. Right? Our company using Apache Solar for search engine. Yes. Saga pattern is used to handle distributed transaction management. Right. You are right. What you said is right. Yes, na boss. Thank you, boss. Have a nice time. Tomorrow when we meet, we will get that. All microservice code should be there in Git or when config server is there. Rajendra, no such guarantee. No such guarantee. You are going